Thank you for tuning in and welcome back, team. Now that you're in your home, you might be wanting to put into action those plans that you had whenever you bought your home. You might be wanting to open up a wall or knock down a wall altogether. Well, there's 5 points to ponder before removing interior walls to ensure that you don't have a renovation nightmare when it comes time to making your new home your dream home. My name is Andrew Finney, your real estate geek. If you need help finding a top agent where you live, or if you simply want to drop me a line to say hello, my contact info is below. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel now and like this video. For reference, I upload 6 days a week, so be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified of the very next one. Thank you. Okay, team, so let's take a look at this. It's really common that whenever I'm showing families different homes, that whenever they choose a home that they want to make the offer on and they go ahead and close on that home, that there's remodel projects, renovation projects that they would like to do to those homes. Sometimes families share with me that they would like to open up a wall or actually remove a wall. Well, there's 5 really important things that you want to consider before you go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and lead in with tip number 1. Tip number 1 is identifying a load-bearing wall versus a non-load-bearing wall. Well, unless you're a contractor, it may not come to you like just out of the blue. It might be like, oh, okay, wow, that is a load-bearing wall. Oh, wow, that's not a load-bearing wall. Oh, it's okay to go ahead and remove that. So there's different things that we want to take a look at, because it is a primary question that any design professional or contractor is going to seek an answer to whenever considering removing a wall. So, or even a portion of that wall. Does the wall hold anything other than itself? What is it doing? Is it supporting the roof? Is it supporting the side of the house? What is it supporting to make sure that it's not going to cause any damage to your house if you remove it? So a load-bearing wall, just to give you an idea, a load-bearing wall is a wall that supports the actual structure. It's tied into the trusses inside of your attic, and what it does is it actually keeps your house standing up, right? So a non-load-bearing wall, or sometimes like interior walls, these are most commonly the walls that people are wondering, are they load-bearing, so that they can go ahead and open it up and give it more of an open flow concept and feel throughout the house. So making sure that you do this correctly will be extremely important. So let's go ahead and move into step number 2. Step number 2 is most walls can be altered one way or another, right? So whenever you, the homeowner, point out to a wall and says, hey, you know, could I remove that wall, or could I remove a large opening and add a wall over here? Maybe you want to reorient the actual floor plan or space itself, right? Ultimately, the answer is always yes. And the reason ultimately the answer is always yes, it just depends on how much money you want to spend. But if you're looking for being practical with your construction projects, you want to go ahead and identify whether it's going to meet your needs and actually meet your budget, and if it's going to actually have the return and the desired appeal to it that you're looking for. So now the third tip in today's episode is that you can actually support load-bearing walls with like beams. If you remove a load-bearing wall, you could support it with a beam, and they come in different forms. So you actually have really cool options here, and I've seen different people be very creative with this, and it's pretty cool. So you can actually have beams that go above the ceiling, right? So into your attic space, and you can sometimes go ahead and install it up there, and it'll go ahead and support the structure of your entire house whenever you remove that load-bearing wall. Now, one of the cooler things that I've seen people do is actually using a decorative beam. Maybe they're using like a rustic wood style, or I've actually seen people do it with metal. I've seen people do it with all kinds of different things to give themselves that open flow concept they're looking for by inserting a beam and making it decorative. It can actually turn out extremely beautiful and add to the appeal and the luster of your home whenever you're putting in decorative beams. So it's something to think about, that if you're going to expose a beam, why not make it decorative? Go ahead and give yourself that open concept flow and give yourself some decorative wood, some decorative metal, something that allows you to have the home decor that fits in with your style. Now, obviously, solid timber is a very common beam that is used in homes, and I don't know when the last time is that you've seen it, or if you've seen it on maybe like HGTV or something, but whenever it's pulled off correctly, it's absolutely stunning. So it's an opportunity to take something that could be ugly and make it beautiful. Now, the third type of beam is actually integrating it into built-ins, right? So it's very functional, it's a beautiful option, and it also allows to integrate both the beam and the required post into some sort of built-in element. So it's common to see like a half-wall height bookcase integrated with archways that look, and they just look fantastic, right? So you can take a bookcase, integrate it with the archway, integrate it with wherever you need it to be, and it's a built-in that's actually supporting the structure of your home. So that's pretty cool. So the fourth thing is learning how to identify a load-bearing wall. Well, unfortunately, there's not exactly 100% surefire way to know exactly if a wall is load-bearing or not just by looking at it. So a contractor or an engineer would employ a few techniques to make a determination on whether that is a load-bearing wall or not. So notice that we're going to give a shout out over here to the contractor contractors and engineers out there that if you're looking at removing walls, that's the place that you want to go as opposed to doing it as a do-it-yourself project. You want to make sure you hire a contractor and an engineer to come in and ensure that your home is going to remain structurally sound as you're removing portions of walls or the entire wall, right? So one of those things in identifying a load-bearing wall is that an engineer or contractor are going to do is they're going to look for the original building plans. If they can find those original building plans, it's going to go a long ways to clarify how the house was framed and show which walls are bearing and which ones are not. The second thing they're going to want to do is get into the attic if at all possible. If the wall's beneath an attic space, then sometimes it's possible to gain access into the attic, get a look at the framing, looking down into the interior of the wall from the attic space, and make an expert level judgment call as far as is it load bearing or not. It can go a long ways to helping them out in determining and sharing with you which walls could or could not be removed. Now, the third thing that they'll like to do is they'll look at the overall house structure itself. So some houses have very telling structural elements, like an older house, think of like the early 1900s or late 1800s style houses where you would see a house with one continuous wall running straight through the entire house. Well, that's probably very likely the reason that it's running through the whole house in a continuous one form of a wall is because it's a load-bearing wall. So it's something to think about and something to consider whenever you're looking at this. Another thing that they would like to do is maybe a contractor engineer might like to see if the house is built using pre-engineered or manufactured roof trusses, or if it was conventionally framed on the actual site. So when we're talking about the difference of that, pre-engineered or manufactured roof trusses, there are homes and there are companies that build those off-site and then they ship them in and go ahead and put the house up. And then most commonly when you see like new home construction, when you see the builders out there working on it, that's more of a conventionally framed house. So it's something to think about whenever you're investigating your options here. The fourth thing that professional contractor engineer is going to look at is inspecting the framing of the wall in question. So if the drywall plaster is removed from a wall in question and the framing is exposed, there's a couple telltale signs. Obviously now we're talking it could get a little bit expensive here because you're talking about removing the drywall from the wall to investigate further. So what's called a double top plate often means that the wall is bearing, and what's called a single top plate often means that it's not. So studs that are 24 inches on the center often mean that the wall is just a partition, whereas like studs that are 16 inches apart could indicate that it's a load-bearing wall, or especially if they're closer to the center line of a wall, that indicates that they're structurally important. The fifth thing that a engineer contractor is going to look at is they're going to remove all of the drywall to reveal the framing. Again, that's a matter of last resort, because now you're talking about getting extremely expensive whenever you remove all your drywall. You're essentially, whenever you hear somebody talking about taking a house down the studs for the remodel, that's what you're talking about whenever you're talking about removing the drywall to reveal the framing itself. Now, that is an option, and that's a complete gut and a complete overhaul of the entire house by the time you remove all that drywall. So that would probably be a lot more massive of a renovation than you may be considering. But then again, maybe you found your dream home and maybe there aren't any floor plans or building specs available on that property. Maybe it's an older home and you said, you know what, I love it and I'm going to renovate it, and I'm going to take it all the way down the studs and replace everything, all the guts of the house. If that's your situation, then okay, then you'll be able to do anything that you want with that house whenever you break it down the studs. Now, the fifth and last point of today's episode is think big, but stay safe. So whenever you're thinking big, go ahead and come up with your game plan. Come up with your thoughts about what walls you want to remove completely or partially, and go ahead and stay safe about it by hiring the appropriate professionals and contractors and engineers to come out and take a look at it. Don't just guess at it and make a mistake, and then maybe, best case scenario, if you do make a mistake with a structurally important wall, is that your roof would sag. That's like the best case scenario. The worst case is the house falls down on top of you and actually kills somebody or hurts somebody. So let's stay away from that by making sure that we do our job correctly as homeowners, and when it comes time to renovate, always hire the licensed, bonded, and insured professional contractor and engineer to come in and make sure that they're telling us what walls we can and can't remove, and then adjusting our plans accordingly based upon what their advice and suggestions are to us. Now, what I'd like you to do is tell us if you've had an experience where you renovated a property and you removed a wall or a partial wall in the comment section below. Tell us how it worked for you and any tips that you have about identifying what was a load-bearing wall versus a non-load-bearing wall in the comment section below, so that we can continue to learn and grow together as a community. Now I'm going to go ahead and pop up my contact information. If you just want to drop me a line to say hello, or if you simply want to reach out to me to help you find a top agent where you live, please let me know. Always love to hear from you, and I'm always here to help. If you haven't already done so, I'm going to ask you to do 3 things. Number 1, please subscribe to this channel. Number 2, please like this video. Number 3, please share this video around with someone you know is going to be able to help, because just like you, I'm sure you could think of just one other person that would really benefit from knowing how best to identify a load-bearing versus non-load-bearing wall. Please go ahead and share this video with them. Thank you. And between now and next time, I'm wishing you and yours a lifetime full of love, wealth, abundance, and happiness. Thank you for watching today, team, and enjoy an amazing day.